Boom. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of What's Next with Ronika. And before we get started, you know what I like to do. I'm going to tell you a fun fact about the world and a fun fact about myself. So, the fun fact, whoa, the fun fact about the world is that there are more trees on Earth than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. So that's cool. And then fun fact about myself is back in my glory days, I was Oregon Volleyball's first top 10 recruit. Since then, I've been dethroned, but records are meant to be broken, so I have no shade towards that. But okay, now that we have people on, welcome to another episode of What's Next with Ronika. For those who are just tuning in for the first time, it's an IG Live series where I go on live with former student athletes to talk about the transition from being a student athlete into the world of sports and entertainment and taking that next step and what that's like. So today's guest, we have Tiki Barber. He is a sports analyst and host. He was a legend with the New York Giants, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to get him on. Let's join him. And throughout the live, remember to ask questions in the question box, and we'll try to answer them at the end. Hello.
Hello, Ronika. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I can't complain.
Before I want to even ask you something, I just want to let you know, I feel like you and your brother missed out on a great business opportunity. I just thought of this. You guys should have had your own show and called it the Barber Shop. I know you guys are both bald, but like the Barber Shop is a place where you guys go and talk about sports, and that could have been a show for you guys.
So back in 2002 or so, after I was dabbling in media for a couple of years, Sirius, before it was Sirius XM, but Sirius Radio asked me and my twin to do a show in the off season, and it was called The Barber Shop. So we actually did do it on radio.
No way!
About 17 years ago. It only lasted a couple seasons before we got too busy with kids and everything else and being grown up.
I'm so shocked. That's crazy. I thought I was really thinking outside the box, and it's already been done before.
It's all good.
Well, you guys could do it again, but okay.
We should bring it. Was fun.
You guys should. So in your time as a student athlete, you came to Virginia, you were on an academic scholarship, which I feel like a lot of people don't know.
Yeah. I could have gone to UVA on an academic scholarship because I was valedictorian of my high school, but I actually did go on an athletic scholarship.
Ew, they're going to have to change your wiki page then.
Wiki page is horrible. It used to have me as my real name is Ateem Kiambu Barber. For about 8 years, it had my name is like Ateem, some Middle Eastern name, something else, Barber. And it took forever for me to get it changed. I don't think it got changed until I came to work at CBS. Their PR people got on it and changed it because it's always wrong.
Well, my mother, one of your close friends, said that you told RJ you were on an academic scholarship. So
I was just trying to get RJ when he was a little kid to, care about academics. That was all.
So you lied. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. But I don't know if this is true or not. Did you break the long jump record on your first attempt?
My very first attempt in college, I broke the long jump record for UVA track and field. Me and Rondé we were good football, but we really wanted to be Olympians. I was a jumper. Rondé was a national champion in the indoor 55-meter hurdles, and track and field was our first passion. We actually went to UVA because they were going to allow us to do both. A lot of schools weren't going to allow us to play football and run track. And UVA said you do both. So I did it for a year, broke the record, started getting strong. Because to be a running back in college, 175 pounds, I wasn't going to last.
Yeah, that's like me right now.
Yeah. But I put on about 20 pounds, and I couldn't jump anymore. So I had to stop. I still worked out with the track team, and so I stayed fast, but I couldn't jump like I used to.
Wow, what a shame.
I know.
But in your time as an athlete, like obviously academics was a really big part. You could have been on an academic scholarship, but doing everything that you did and playing at such a high level, how were you able to juggle being a student and being an athlete at the same time?
It was very hard, and you know this as well, Veronica, being an athlete, and I mean you're more famous than I was in college. Your internationalization of your volleyball career. But it's being put on a schedule as an athlete helped me be put myself on a schedule as a student. And I want to say I was lucky because I had some really good mentors at UVA that were on the football team. One of them, one of our linebackers, and I mean, he's a genius. He made it 4-0. Tom Burns was his name. I think he now works down in North Carolina or South Carolina at some nuclear whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Cool. But he was a great example to follow on how to manage your time to get things done. I actually followed him into the engineering school, but that's when I fell in love with computers and ultimately transitioned out of the e-school and into the business school and studied management information systems and database design. And I got in the business school a little bit easier because at UVA, business school was project based. So it wasn't like, go do this assignment and turn it in tomorrow. It was, you have 3 weeks to work on this project as a team, and you'll all turn it in together or present together. And so it was a little bit easier. Even though it was hard work, it was a little bit easier because it wasn't as structured. It wasn't as concrete of a due date. And so it worked perfectly with my athletic schedule as well.
Yeah. You don't seem like the common football player. All these classes don't sound like anything my friends have taken or are thinking about taking.
I can't
But
help it. I love C++. I love, COBOL. I wanted to be an astronaut when I grew up. See, I have a NASA shirt on. This was my dream when I was in high school.
yeah, you just became an NFL player instead. That's tragic.
Football guy.
Yeah. But what resources were you able to use at your school that
So
helped you be successful?
yeah, we had a lot of great tutors within our athletic department who, if you needed help, they would find time to study with you. But I also had a lot of great friends that weren't athletes. They were the academics, so to speak, at UVA, and whenever I had problems or issues, I would go to them. And in fact, one jumps to mind. His name was Steve or I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Losa, right?
Okay.
Track with me. Not even play football, but he ran track with me. And back then, the internet was brand new, so it was just launched. Program HTML, which is the code behind the websites. I had no idea how to do, but I had to do it for a project. And so he sat down with me in a computer lab. I mean, probably 5 or 6 nights in a row, till 2 or 3 in the morning, just teaching me how to code. And so part of it was, the resources within the athletic department, but a lot of it was just friends who took an interest in having me learn. It was great.
Yeah, and you just from you talking about a little bit who you are, wanting to be an astronaut, wanting to be an Olympian. You were the 36th overall pick in the NFL draft, and you played your whole career with the New York Giants. But I mean, I feel like you've been thinking of life outside of athletics for quite some time. But when could you pick a moment where you're just like, football's not going to last forever? Let me start thinking about something
Yeah,
else.
happened as a rookie. I think your dad was there when I was a rookie. Um, Maybe it was my second year, but anyways, your dad was blocking for me at that point, and I wasn't very good, to be honest with you. I got hurt early. My knees were a little bit compromised. I'd lost a step or so, and I'm only 22 years old at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I knew that football would not be, or it potentially would not be my future. And so I started doing media. WFAN, which is a local radio station in New York, had me on a overnight gig. So I was working from 10 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning during my off seasons, just to learn, right? Just to try something new. I mean, if I failed at it, who cares? It was 10 o'clock at night to 2 in the morning. Who the hell was listening, right? And so, but I found I loved to talk, and I love to interact with people and have conversations and connect. And it just started to grow. So I did WFEN one off season. The next off season, WCBS asked me to do, which was the TV side of it, asked me to do a hit in the mornings. And a couple years later, I get good and we go to the Super Bowl. And so here I am
Ah.
as a athlete, but kind of a media member. And I did video blog of our Super Bowl trip, and it was a big hit. And it kind of just launched me into this parallel career as I got better as an athlete, as a football Giants, and then went to the Yes Network. Eventually, I was working at Fox News, and by the time I retired, it was kind of like a bidding war for me to do media. How did this happen? But it launched me into what I'm doing now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they're under the perception that because you're good at football, then obviously anyone's going to want you. But I don't think it just takes being a great athlete to be
Yeah.
on TV. What did it take for you to secure all of those roles?
So a lot of what made me successful as a football player. Preparation, it was understanding what my role was going to be, a lot of humility as well, because it's you can think you know it all, but you really don't know anything. No matter how long you're
Yeah.
in, you can always learn. And so the same things, I'll go back to what I was alluding to at the University of Virginia, like my friends helping me out and, showing me a little bit of the ropes. I still remember my first team when I did TV. It was Todd McDermott, who's down in Florida now, and Cindy Shue. They were the anchors when I was doing the sports on TV. And we became really good friends. They would help me grow. I mean, the first time I was holding the like, scared is all uh, delivering the news, and eventually you just get calm. You learn from your mistakes. You keep growing. I think the biggest thing I learned, Veronica, are never going to be perfect, and sometimes you question them. But if you're not ready to take them, then there's a good chance it might not come. And so whenever an opportunity comes my way, even if it's bad to fail, I don't say no to it, and some good things have happened because of that.
Yeah, I think that's the best advice I've gotten from multiple people. It's just like say yes,
Yeah,
always say yes. I'm like, I'm tired, but okay, I'll say yes. Like I'll keep saying yes, and it got me here.
that's right.
But you've not only been on TV for sports, you were covering hard news and
Yeah,
politics at one point. You're on Food Network. You were on Project Runway as a guest judge. You're a marathon runner. You're part of different businesses. And oh, yeah, you made a Broadway debut
yeah,
last year.
yeah,
Why
yeah.
is it so important for you to, vendor off into multiple careers?
Yeah, again, it's opportunity. But when I was early in my media career, the one I was telling you about, I knew that I wanted to do it, but I wasn't good at it. I didn't know how to speak. I didn't know how to hold myself and project and throw my voice out. And so I took an acting class with this woman who taught kids like 5 to 12-year-old kids. She taught acting classes with these little kids just so I can learn how to project. But eventually she said, you're getting pretty good at this. I'm going to produce a play. It's an off Broadway play, but I'm going to produce a play, and I want you to play a role of the character named Duke. The play was by John Patrick Shanley. Most people know him from Moonstruck. It was called Women of Manhattan. And so it was me and this girl on a date. I'm smoking a pipe, and we're talking back and forth. And it's this evolution of this kind of seduction. And we're having this and I loved it. I reveled in being on stage, but I started to get really good at football. And so this little thing that I explored kind of fell off because football became so prominent in my life. And then last year, I got an offer to do a walk-on role for Kinky Boots. And a walk-on role, you just come on for a day, you learn this thing, and you do it for a day, and that's it. But they ultimately had one of their main characters going to take a hiatus because he was going to work on another play for about 6 or 7 weeks. And they asked me, well, would you like this part? I'm like, man, that's daunting. It's really daunting because it was one of the major roles. It's actually the thesis of the film, or of the production. A guy who changes his mind about someone he doesn't know. And so I spent 5 weeks. I said yes, obviously. I spent 5 weeks learning it. Rehearsed in the mornings, and then did my show in the afternoons. I mean, I didn't sleep for like 3 weeks. But then my debut came, and I was so nervous. I mean, more nervous than anything I've ever done in my life. My first game with at UVA, my first game with the Giants. This was the most nervous I'd ever been in my life. but I got through it. And then every day it just started getting a little bit easier and easier and easier. Ultimately, I did it for 6.5 weeks, almost 7 weeks, and it was one of the great experiences of my life. For those who don't know what the story is, a shoemaker is losing business. He goes to London. He meets a drag queen who tells him you should make kinky boots for men who dress like women in the shop. And I'm the antagonist. I'm the one that's saying, no, we don't want to make kinky boots. We don't want, drag queens here. No, 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 no. But eventually I changed my mind. It's just a moving story about love and acceptance. And of the 60 something performances I did, every night I knew that the entire audience would be standing on their feet, cheering and singing these songs that we sung. It was so moving. It was so emotional for
Wow. I did not expect that part of your Broadway career. But when you were a student athlete, and even when you're in the NFL, what was the hardest part for you separating your athlete identity into I'm a professional blank blank because you've been so many things?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Ronika. I think a lot of athletes aren't comfortable being famous. So they're taught and they learn how to be great at a skill, and how to, catch a football or spike a volleyball or dunk a basketball, whatever it may be. But social and interactive skills, networking skills, they're not necessarily taught. And so when you finally hit that stage, like you're at the pinnacle, it's almost uncomfortable, if you know what I mean. And now some people mask it by being overly high. Some people mask it by always being on their phone. You see people all the time, they go somewhere, they always have their phone. It's like they're crushed, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was probably my second year at the Giants that I learned to accept it, right? I learned to accept that people wanted my attention. Like they wanted to engage with me. And instead of being shy, because I'm naturally shy, I'm an introvert, even though I have an extroverted personality with what I do professionally.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned to accept it and stand up to it and absorb it. And it became me, right? And I still want to sit in the corner and read a book and do all those other things, but you learn to accept who you are, or at least you learn to accept how people see you, which makes you to be yourself.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I love the attention, so can't relate.
Yeah, no.
But who for you?
That's from your mom and dad.
Yeah, 100%. More of my mom than my dad.
Yes.
But who for you is someone that you can look to as a mentor and that has helped you within your broadcasting career?
Well, honestly, who used to tell me the absolute truth was my twin. You brought him up earlier, Rondé.
Yeah.
So when I first started at NBC, this is after I retired from the NFL. I'm working at NBC on the Today Show, and I'm doing stories, and it's a lot of it's not sports. And the first thing they asked me to do was go meet with a voice coach, and this guy had a British accent, and he's like, you have to pronounce these words certain ways. You have to have this intent when you speak, and I was like, all right, I'll try it. And so I did a couple of stories. My brother would call, like immediately he'd call me. He'd be like, dude, you sound like a whatever. Like, you sound like a jerk. Stop talking like that. Just be normal. But he helped me like keep it real, so to speak. Because at the end of the day, you can't fake it. You know what I mean? Like people will see through it. You got to be yourself. And I think it was some of the great advice I got from someone I really trusted, who was kind of an extension of me.
Yeah. We're going to open it up. 4 questions. Oh, that one. Well, someone asked if you guys have a telepathic connection.
Sometimes I think we do.
These questions have nothing to do with what I want to ask you. If you had to take away 3 things from your student athlete experience that current student athletes can learn from, what would it be? The 3 most important things.
Well, I won't espouse this for everyone, but this really worked for me. If you can, stay at school and don't go home. I mean, visit home, but force yourself into being independent, because it gets really easy when you go home to not want to it's hard to transition back. And
Mhm.
so from the moment me and Rondé left Roanoke, Virginia to go to Charlottesville, we never lived at home again. So we would go home. We'd stay, go see my mom. We'd stay for a few days, but we didn't live there. We didn't go stay at home for a month or 2 months in the summers or the off seasons. And what that forced us to do was to grow, and to learn independence. More importantly, it allowed us to take classes over the summer, and those classes over the summer are often really small, and they're you can dig and learn so much about yourself and what you ultimately want to study. That's how I made the transition out of the engineering school into the business school. Again, I wanted to be an astronaut, so I
Yeah.
was engineering degree, right? And then one summer I took a programming class, and it was like writing English. It was like writing the dog jumped over the fence and went to the park, right? And instead it was all of this computer data, or computer language, machine language, that just made perfect sense to me. And if I hadn't stayed that summer, I don't know if
Yeah.
I would have. I mean, I might have happened upon it, but maybe not,
Yeah.
right? I found my passion by having some independence, but also not the typical mass, you know, higher education experience like what happens during the regular semesters.
This one. This is by Kareen. What advantages of being a student athlete do you think has helped your career after playing?
I think being balanced, and understanding priorities was probably the biggest one. I was forced, and I think it's probably different for you or Olympic sports, but we were forced to take our classes at a specific time every day, because we
Hmm.
had practice at 3:30 and whatever it may be. If we had a lab, we had to find a way to either put it at the back end of our day, which was hard because you're exhausted after practice, or do them early in the morning. And I think it, my student athlete experience taught me balance, like how to prioritize. And just to keep it real, it also taught me how to scramble, right? I got really good in college of like quickly processing and writing information and learning it, which really helped me when I got to the NFL, because things change quickly. Like you're playing the Eagles one weekend and this is your game plan, but next weekend you're playing, the Los Angeles Rams, or at the time it was the St. Louis Rams, and their scheme is completely different. So you have to learn quickly and differently, in order to be effective. And so I think having to do that in college helped me once I got to the NFL.
Yeah. And I mean, we've reached, let me see if there's another good question for what? Let's see. What's your, no, no. Like I'm reading these, I'm like, nah. What? Wait. I feel like this is good, but I'm not sure. So we're just going to put it on the screen.
Any advice to working with pro athletes? I find it hard to know when to be persistent with adding value to their careers. And
And there's not enough.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know what it says.
Um, so I think like working with professional athletes is often difficult because there are a lot of um, barriers. There's a lot of filters to actually get to them, and there's often a wall. Like they don't. There's not trust. It's not inherent trust of everybody,
Mhm.
and so it gets sometimes difficult to work with athletes. And so the only way to his or her question to get an athlete's trust is to be persistent, but not to ask for anything. You know what I mean? It's a fine line, but until you can, when you find that balance, you'll know it,
Yeah.
and you'll start getting interactions with athletes that, and they know that you're not asking for something, and then from there you can work collaboratively. But it's really hard because most times they'll push you to someone else, who may not necessarily have the same ideals or direction that they have.
It's funny, like how people have to talk about athletes because like they're a different breed of people.
Well, I mean, it depends. Certain athletes, if it depends on what sport you're talking about as well.
Yeah.
Like if you're talking like the major sports, football or basketball, that would apply, and that's my experience. But for others, it's not. It's you find a way to connect with something that's maybe not what they do all the time.
Yeah.
Find them and connect through that. This
is the last one. Could broadcasting use more guys like you?
It's a hard question. When I first started broadcasting, I was unpopular because I just said what I felt and what I meant, and I don't know if it was always received that way. It's evolved a little bit, but I think that broadcasting, especially sports broadcasting, needs former athletes because they give context that's often lost, and there's a perspective that someone who's just watching and hasn't experienced it can't appreciate. It's like today on my radio show, we were having a conversation about crowd noise, and we know that because of the coronavirus pandemic that a lot of stadiums are going to be empty. And so if you're the NFL and you're a broadcast team and you're pumping in crowd noise to try to make the consumer at home feel comfortable with the product, it might not reconcile, right? Because I go back to my playing days and I'm thinking, playing in, say, like Philadelphia, we're backed up on the 2-yard line and they're cussing and screaming and yelling. There's like an anxiety that you feel when that happens, right? It's just like it wells inside of you. Some of it's angry, like it builds, right?
Mm.
And a commentator can speak to that. Now, what happens if the commentator they're pumping in noise and the commentator's talking to this, but you as a consumer visually don't see the same thing? Like, it's hard to reconcile. Mm-hmm. And so I think the experience of being having done it before lets me speak more intelligently on some of the issues that happen around sport.
Yeah, I agree. But thanks for coming on. Thanks for saying yes.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, and maybe my mom always says you're a stranger. We'll actually all be able to link up. But thank you for your time. Yes.
Thank you, and good luck to you, Ronika. It's great to see
you. Bye. All right, guys. That was another episode of What's Next with Ronika. Next week, we'll have Talia Wilkins and Brianna Gladley, and we'll keep posting updates with who they are and what they do. But can't forget, we like to thank our partners with Mobot, the first foam roll water bottle. You guys can go and get your own. You'll always have a water bottle and a roller. It's in one. It's amazing. You can go and get your own on their website using promo code What's Next, and you can get 25% off. And also, I know you guys are all on Amazon during quarantine right now anyways, because who's not buying random stuff? But when you do smile.amazon.com and select the winning edge as your charity so you guys can donate. You won't donate. I feel like people always, when talking about charities, are like, I don't want to donate the dollar. But it's not you. It's Amazon that's donating it, so don't even worry about it. Continue to follow along. I'll post the full episode soon. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, if you're not already. And we'll get back to it next week.